This episode of This Week in MMO is brought to you by Netflix. For a free 30-day trial, head on over to netflix.com/GameBreakerTV. What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. It's This Week in MMO episode 130 for February 1st, 2013. You're watching GameBreaker. I'm Gary Gannon, and coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about PlanetSide 2, the first massive esport. We got some Tesso, that's the Elder Scrolls Online information. We got Neverwinter's pricing model, and delay for Age of Wushu. We're going to talk about Wizardy Online, maybe some other stuff, all that and more, of course. But first, Hillary Nicole, AK Pocket, how are you?
Doing fine. I'm getting better. I'm finally getting better.
Sickness? You're always sick. Like week after week, we just follow. We should start out this week. This week in Hillary's illness.
Yes.
Well, you look good. You look healthy.
That's good. I look really pale because I haven't been outside much.
Nah, there's a lot of people. Flu season.
Yes.
And joining us from GameBreaker TV, it's Mr. Jason Winter. How are you, sir?
I'm getting better also. Frankly, I sucked last year, the whole year,
Good.
so I'm really working on getting better.
Good, get better. What do we got? What's that flag in the background we got going on? What is this?
It's actually Rohan,
Oh,
Horse Lords.
sporting the flag.
It's a thing that I just had and wanted something on the background.
All right, so first up this week, let's talk a little bit about PlanetSide 2 and the surprising news last week that MLG is picking up PlanetSide 2. Major League Gaming, esports, you know, that whole thing. Do a lot of Call of Duty, League of Legends, StarCraft 2, PlanetSide 2.
Call of Duty.
All right. Yeah, we talked about this last week, and we were trying to figure this out of how would PlanetSide 2 work as an esport. It was definitely not the first thing that came to mind, and we all kind of put up, we all had speculations of how this might work. SOE President John Smedley shot this out this week. He had this to say about it. He said, one of the best parts about the partnership is we get to work with MLG's experts. The likely story here is going to be designing a smaller environment. Maybe platoon versus platoon. The most important thing is that we're not going to rush into it. We're going to analyze what we've got in there now and make something that will be unique and uniquely awesome, like massive gladiator games and huge spectacle. What do you think? PlanetSide 2, smaller environments. I mean, that's not something that kind of comes to mind. So it sounds to me like this is almost going to be a completely separate game from what we're used to with PlanetSide 2. You're basically going to use the engine, the graphics, build new maps, something smaller.
It sounds about like we predicted, though, last week when we were like, I can't really see this working if they don't go with smaller maps, because otherwise you'll have 100 people versus 100 people, and you'll just be like, when's this going to end? But with a smaller map, then people will have less time, I guess. It'll be less time to actually defeat the enemy. But yeah, I couldn't really see it. But they did also mention that they would make it accessible to people who didn't want to partake in esports. If it happened.
Yeah, and they must be planning on making these maps and then releasing all of these maps. So you're going to have like almost two versions of PlanetSide. I guess when you log into the game, you're going to be able to like go in the open world area where you're just, you know, doing the normal PlanetSide 2, or go on these instance maps where you could like team up against, you know, other players. I imagine they have to let players run these maps, right? You can't just be like, hey, show up to MLG and check out these
guess
maps.
What you're doing.
Yeah.
Unless they make it like a subset of the current maps. It's not a real map, so it'll still have areas like the Crown or whatever. It's just a little blocked-in area, maybe like a shield, you know, invulnerable wall, hard wall of air or whatever around the edges, so you can't get past. I mean, they kind of have that now, where you can't. Like, if you get the warning if you go past the borders, so they can make it like that. Just make it a subset of what you currently have.
I mean, how do you think? What do you guys think? I mean, will it feel like PlanetSide 2? I mean, we're just not used to this. This is an interesting take on it. We've never seen anybody that I can think of kind of team up as an esport with a game and radically change the game for esports. Like it's usually been built in a lot of games, and they kind of plan it out from the beginning. So this is are people going to really like consider it PlanetSide 2 if it's totally separate?
I mean, the other thing is you have to have some kind of matches too, which again, in PlanetSide 2, you don't really have that. I wonder how they're going to score it. It's not just going to be, keep playing, capture stuff, and hooray. You're going to have to have some sort of scoring, time limits, whatever, which again seemed kind of against the notion of PlanetSide 2 as we play it now.
I mean, take it to the next level, right? As far as he's talking about, he suggests platoon versus platoon. Of course, this is they're obviously not jumping into this, and there's a lot of planning, and I don't think they exactly know what they're going to do yet, which is why they want to work with MLG. But he suggests platoon versus platoon, which is actually quite a large number of players. I mean, Hillary, do you see organizations like Dignitas or these other or esports organizations? Are they going to pick up dozens of players to build a PlanetSide 2 team?
The only organization of sorts that I can picture doing this is Ruin. I don't know if anybody's run into Ruin Gaming, but they have plenty of players to do things with, and they just dominate servers just by sheer number. Anyway, I did want to make one note about how if they come out with new instanced stuff, my fear would be that it would take away from the open world stuff, and you'd see less people going into open world and more people just sticking to instancing and fighting that way, and that could actually be a downside to doing this.
But that's not what they're thinking. They're thinking, oh, we'll add players because they want to do the esports, so we'll get more people in, and they'll take those maps, whatever. But you're right; it'll probably be more like what you described.
Yeah.
I mean, it technically can work. I mean, it's a good engine. They could build it. It's just an odd thing. I mean, I don't know. Jason, what do you think? Can you see teams and organizations actually getting behind something like this and building large platoons just around? Because I don't. Good.
I was supposed to say, I don't think you can make a lot of. I don't think you really make those and have them be as focused as you want. It's like right now, if you run, say, a 5-man dungeon, you can get your 5 people, and they could all be really good, and what they're doing and coordinate everything. I would imagine back in the days, I didn't really play WoW back then or anything, but I imagine when you had the 40-man raids, you probably had 20 people who were really good at it, really dedicated. Another 10 who were pretty good players, guys you could depend on, and the other 10 were just kind of there for the loot. We didn't want doing anything remotely difficult, and I can't imagine you getting 40 hardcore dedicated people together to win or 40 or 50 or however many you're going to have to win each PlanetSide match or whatever.
It wouldn't happen. There's no way that esports would take on 40-player versus 40-player maps. In my opinion, they're gonna likely have maybe 3 different sets, and it's gonna be maybe 5, 10, and 15, or 10, 15, and 20. But you won't go over 20, because once you go over 20, you're starting to push the threshold of the amount of people that you can get on and be dedicated. Because even 20 to 30, whenever you go that. A lot of hardcore guilds and MMOs can do that, but a lot of the smaller guilds, they can't do that. They have to end up pugging it and stuff in raids. And so I doubt you're going to be able to get outfits that are above 20 people to dedicate themselves. Plus, they're not going to be able to pay for that. Your outfit and your outfit's the best. Let's, fly you into Vegas and do a tournament.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk about that in a minute, because that even opens up a whole nother thing. But let's talk about this. Where do you guys think they're going to go with the 3 faction system? I mean, that's even something that's kind of odd, right? You think they're going to scale that back to 2 and basically just have platoon versus platoon and remove the 3rd faction? I mean, is 3 faction remotely feasible in esports? I mean, if it's supposed to be all out, skill and strategy, what happens if two factions ganging up on one? I mean, that completely nullifies it if there's some sort of alliance there between two of the platoons.
You can maybe just say that's part of it.
Oh my God, gamers cheat, or you can't call that cheating. I mean, it's going to happen. So I'm wondering if they're going to radically change the rule set completely. And this is just going to become maps, 2 teams, red versus blue.
It almost sounds at this point like it should be almost a completely separate game. We shouldn't even call it PlanetSide 2 almost. It should be call it PlanetSide Battles or something like that.
That's what it sort of feels like that, which isn't a bad thing, right? This could really work. I mean, here's the thing that they do have going for them, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys both agree, but I find that watching even PlanetSide is a lot of fun. I think the massive battles and how and how John kind of references it here of being this big spectacle. I really feel like they've captured that, and it's actually a really fun game to watch. And just wonder how it's going to kind of come into this thing. Matt Higbee, PlanetSide 2's creative director, added this. He had this to say about it. He said, we'll have outfits of different sizes competing, and it'll be a bracketed tournament for different sized groups. And there will be instanced maps for the purposes of the tournament. But we also want to make sure it ties into the metagame of PlanetSide. Right now, the way we're approaching it is that you're eligible to compete in these tournaments based on your outfit's accomplishments in PS2 itself. So,
am I the only one that always?
Does that mean that like playing?
Sorry.
Go ahead. How did what did you think? What was your initial thoughts?
Oh, well, oh no, go ahead. Sorry, it was a little off topic. Sorry.
Well, I mean, when I read this, I'm like, so does that mean that playing PlanetSide 2 normally, just in the normal day-to-day game, effectively is are the qualifiers for getting into these tournaments? Like, do we have to like get BGA up on like we have to start like training and like, getting in there like on a daily and weekly basis? Because it sounds to me like just your daily achievements playing in the game of what you're doing with your platoon and your outfit is actually going to be what qualifies you to get into these outfits. Or to these tournaments.
Again, we talk about it from the standpoint of a raid. It's like we don't have 40 people in that group that get on regularly and play. Even we have like maybe half that many, and of those, maybe half of them are actually good. Which is not you and me. So it's like, and then, how you have to have at least like 100 people in your outfit, and then maybe of those 40 are good enough. But
And then, of course, is MLG, right? And like you said before, Hillary, you brought up a really good point, was that the fact that like, these events happen at specific locations that usually teams fly into so they can be covered and they're playing head to head. I mean, if you're just like this group of people playing PlanetSide 2 and you're actually really good, are you just going to like all like pull money together and jump on flights and go to like MLG and playing in front of live audiences? Like, I don't see that happening.
Yeah. There's no way, even if they're like, you have to pay for your own tickets, there's no way 40 people are going to be able to, not all of them are going to be able to just randomly buy a ticket to go somewhere. As sad as this is to say, there are just as many poor gamers as there are that would be able to do that. And so poor gamers aren't going to be able to, like, I couldn't just be like, okay, I'm going to randomly buy this ticket and go compete in this tournament now. They're going to have to downsize a lot, actually. And speaking on what you were talking about earlier about the 3 factions, I think it would feel less like PlanetSide if they got rid of 3 factions. Like,
I agree.
If they got 3 small groups, let's just say 10 tops on each side, then I can see it working, and I can see that still being the PlanetSide feel. But if they made it 2 factions, then I don't know. Then it'll just be like every other shooter.
I think they're really trying to figure out like a completely different mindset of what they can build out for MLG, but then somehow tie it into the game. But I really feel like it's going to be very separate. I mean, but it's still, I don't know if they really know what they're going to do here. It's probably too early to tell. I guess, who mentioned top end rating? I mean, could it be like that? Could they maybe treat it like top end rating guilds? And I don't know.
Didn't Blizzard do something at BlizzCons where they would have like really hard raid content and they'd have the top 3 guilds actually go and compete against one another, and they'd all be timed, and then like they'd place first, second, and third based on who finished that content first? Like Paragon was one.
We could see something like that, and we could see Sony possibly sponsor the entire thing and pay for all, a couple like 3-4 guilds to all fly out and kind of do something like this in MLG. Maybe that's what they're looking at. Maybe they'll utilize the daily.
Let's say that's fine for a one-off thing to have 3 or 4 guilds that are capable of this, but you don't just want there to be four teams capable of doing this. You'd want to have dozens at least. Yeah. Otherwise, just the same guys all the time.
And then the other thing is about prize money, right? Like, what kind of prize money are we going to be throwing at something like this?
$5 each.
Station cash.
It is MLG. I mean, they usually go for the pretty big, the big dollars. I mean, what do we see? I don't know if it's affiliated with MLG, but what do we see today? Isn't like the Call of Duty thing $1 million?
This is like
I know League's like 5 million.
Yeah, I mean, it's like those things are getting crazy. I don't know. And then are SOE gonna put it a spectator mode? Are we gonna see that coming soon for like casting? And because that's another thing, right?
They said they wanted to put in some sort of tools for observation. I remember seeing that in that interview.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to also have to happen before any of this really takes off because, I mean, I think the community is where esports really start and people got to start shoutcasting these things on Twitch and things like that. And you start seeing tournaments and money. That's the only way that I think you'll even see people start gathering together to form actual teams that want to compete in something like this. I've got another quote here. This is MLG CEO, Sundance DiGiovanni. It's an amazing name. Sundance DiGiovanni.
Is that his picture?
Yeah, I think that's really him. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, he said this. So he said it's an opportunity to do something that's fresh and something on that scale is unique. To be able to layer in more competitive players and rewards, tournament capabilities. We're going to be doing things that nobody's ever done around a shooter before. See, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but the more and more I'm reading about this is they've come to I read into this and say they've come to some kind of agreement. SOE and MLG have said like, hey guys, let's shake some hands. We're gonna do something with MLG. Yes, this will be awesome. What are we gonna do? I have no freaking idea. Let's figure it out. But we'll make this work because this is important and SOE really wants to get into esports. John loves esports. He talked a little bit about it in something in believe it or not, EverQuest next, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But I don't know. Are you guys skeptical at this point? Do you think that they're just sort of like trying to figure out like how do we put this peg into this hole? And
honestly, I don't think they would have announced it if they hadn't already figured something out. It's just they're not going to announce it to us because if they decide to go back and change it a little bit, then we'll be like, oh my gosh, but you said, blah, blah, blah was going to happen. I think that they've obviously figured out the basics of what they want to do, and they're coming out with the finite details now. And I'm skeptical, but I do have hope that they can pull it off. And the way they'll do it is by having 3 factions and maybe making it a familiar part of the map or where you like have to take control of something in the center. They can pull it off. It's just they have to do it correctly. So,
Jason, you play a lot of PlanetSide. And you're usually pretty damn skeptical.
I'm pro. I'm going to totally be at the top of the rankings.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is this a little bit of MMO esports buzzword of last year? Kind of like dynamic and story was last year with the buzzwords. Now it's esports and
yeah. I mean, I did an article on this earlier this week. It's like people are now kind of chasing the esports and chasing the whatever 8 million viewers that League of Legends World Championships have. Like they used to chase 10 million players, and wow, we can do that. We'll make an MMO. It'll be great. And I think this is sort of the next thing that they're the next, as I said in my articles, the next whale the Captain Ahabs are going after. So
I kind of want them to, though.
Yeah, I mean, well, just say that we would love to have another MMO that has 10 million players. Like, wow, are we going to get it?
One thing, like especially, I'm surprised WoW hasn't gone into esports simply because of the arenas and how popular those are at BlizzCon. Like they're super popular at BlizzCon. It's usually like when they get down to the finals, it's just crowded. You can't find a place to sit. And I enjoy watching them. I really enjoy it. But they haven't gotten in there. And as someone who likes to be really competitive in PvP, I sort of feel like I waste my time in ranked and whatnot because I don't really get any rewards for it. I just get like, you did good, yay.
Well, I think I agree with you, Hillary, the fact that like I think MLG and SOE must have some sort of decently solid idea of where to go with this thing, or they wouldn't have gotten into an agreement in the first place until they got that far. So they probably do have something there. At the very least, like I said, I think what SOE have really done, I think they've got a great game here, and I think it's very entertaining actually to watch. It's a great spectacle. So I think that also adds to the fact of like, wow, if this thing is really fun to watch, like we can kind of make this work. Now this is kind of this next one here. This is Smedley dropped this little teaser, and I don't know where to go with this. He said it's too early for us to announce anything with EQ next, but I will say this: we're big fans of esports. This is it.
Esports sandbox.
SOE is just all about the esports. That's it. So EQ next, basically they're going to go after esports. I don't know. I guess if they can turn PlanetSide 2 into a popular esport, if it all works with actually no indication before launch, why not with EverQuest next?
I think they can do it with EverQuest. I think it'd be easier with EverQuest than it would with PlanetSide, to be honest. I mean, you make some instance PvP and bam, you got your esport. As long as you regulate it and make sure, like people in chat are saying right now, WoW has a lot of win trading, which is a huge issue with their arenas. And as long as you can prevent that in some way.
Well, the interesting thing to me about this, but I just think I'm thinking of the hardcore. I guess maybe I'm thinking too small here of the hardcore EverQuest fan base, because I just don't think that they would care about this. Like, I feel like the hardcore people who love EverQuest could give two shits about esports, and they're just like, give me my high fantasy, give me my great writing. I want story. I want to go on a journey, and I want a living virtual world. I don't give a crap about esports.
Here's the really dirty thing: is that there are probably 15, 20, 30,000 people at most playing EverQuest right now. SOE doesn't give a crap about them either.
Ooh.
If they can get esports to bring in 500,000 people, they will crap all over the people who are currently playing EverQuest.
I agree.
Yeah,
maybe
they'll
not that
get bigger
harsh.
numbers.
Yeah, sure.
No, I think you have that. Look at WoW and look at arenas. I'm just going to keep mentioning this because it's an MMO, but you have your competitive PvP that, you know, they bring it to BlizzCon and they get big rewards, but, you know, that's only like 10% of the population in WoW that actually does arena, and the people that actually go on to tournaments is very, very, very small percentage. The majority don't care. Like, even in WoW, I didn't really care about arenas. I enjoyed battlegrounds instead, and so I think that it will draw some people to it, but it won't draw, you know, like, it won't draw people who don't enjoy PvP as much or just don't care.
Whatever happens, this is going to be a very interesting story as we watch unfold. So we'll definitely be covering the PlanetSide 2 MLG thing a lot more on GameBreaker. So as soon as we get news, we will post it. All right, we're going to talk about some Elder Scrolls Online. But first, I want to tell you guys about a great deal we got going on with Netflix. If you guys have not checked it out, you can sign up today for a free 30-day trial. Just go to netflix.com/GameBreakerTV. You can get their streaming service absolutely free, no questions asked, for 30 days. If you have not checked it out, go on over, sign up. You don't have to spend a dime. If you don't like it in the first 30 days, you can always cancel. If not, it's like $8 a month after that, and you can stream it to your iPad, your Xbox, your PS3, maybe your soon-to-be PS4. Maybe. Your Android, all kinds of devices, including your desktop, your Apple TV, and all that good stuff. Go check it out today. Sign up. Do your dailies. Netflix.com/GameBreakerTV. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some The Elder Scrolls Online. Matt Firor. I always have trouble saying his last name.
We've got to get the official pronunciation on that someday.
Firor. I wish I didn't have to just totally hack your name.
Isn't it Fior?
Firor. I don't know. I saw him give a speech. I just don't remember how he said it. I'm sure he got up there and like presented himself and said, "Hi, I'm Matt Firor."
I think it's Fior.
Faraga.
Anyway, all right. So Penny Arcade spoke to him. Elder Scrolls fans might be disappointed by this. I'm actually a little bit surprised by this myself, to learn that although you will be able to move the camera into first-person view, you will not be able to see your hands or your weapon in the Elder Scrolls Online, which pretty much tells us that that's probably a bad idea to do so in the game. I thought about this a lot over the weekend, right? Over the week, actually, when I saw this, and I'm actually back playing Skyrim again. Tells you how good. And do you guys think that, like, how can I put this? Do you think a lot of the popularity of Elder Scrolls Online actually stems on how closely they can relate the experience of online to what we are used to with Oblivion and Skyrim? Because I feel like it does to some extent. And I feel like this is a big, big, big thing to me that, like, is odd. If I don't see my sword like I do in Skyrim, it's going to be a little bit weird.
I can kind of see why they do it. Because it's...
Why, so
even
you
though
take pretty pictures?
Well, even though they are talking about having the, you know, left click to attack and right click to something else or another, it's still an MMO where you're going to have buttons that do special attacks. So it's like, it's not just I do my button and I just go hack like that with my sword. It's a more complex, you know, you're going to hit your one button, it's going to be your flaming death strike attacks, which isn't really related to what you click with your mouse. I mean, it makes some amount of sense to me why they would do it.
From a technical standpoint, maybe it does, but I'm not the designer. I don't have to figure out all these smart things like why it would work and why it wouldn't. I'm just saying I know like if you're taking an IP that it's so much about that. Like that's, I don't know. I feel like that's one of the things about the Elder Scrolls games that people have become so accustomed to. Maybe I'm nitpicking just a small thing and maybe it's not going to be a big deal, but I just sort of feel like they're going to obviously go after a lot of players who maybe don't play MMOs and played Skyrim, right? Like one of the biggest games in the world from the RPG scene. And they're going to get in there and they're immediately going to go into first person view because that's what probably, I'm going to say most people probably play Skyrim. And they're not going to see their weapon. They're going to be like, what? That's weird. It's a little
They're going to be really amazed to see other people running around. And that's going to freak them the heck out.
This isn't like Skyrim at all.
I don't know why. Why? All right. So let me ask you this then. Why do you guys think that they would not just be fully supporting first person view? You think it's PvP, time, effort, tech? Like what? Why would they not? It's not like they can't do it. We've seen other MMOs do it. Mortal Online does it. Like it can happen. Why not support it?
I'm gonna say tech.
That's just because it sounds good. I'm gonna say tech. I have no idea why, but
I'd like to buy a Val.
Here's one thing I've thought about too. Whenever I play, I think I've done this in Skyrim. It's like when I go in first person and I swing my sword, it goes a certain way. I click the left button, it goes this. If I zoom out to third person, it doesn't look exactly the same. It might be a little more vertical or something, or more horizontal or something, or whatever. And that's fine in the game when I'm the only person who could see anything. And maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe there's some reason why you can't mimic the exact same motion in first and third person. But if you're an MMO, you have to have the exact same motion because other people are out there externally looking at it. So maybe that's got something to do with it.
Yeah,
gonna be interesting. I don't know.
I think that it's definitely, I mean, when you play an MMO versus a single-player game, especially whenever it has PvP in it, you have to be aware of what's going on around you, and, you know, it's hard to, even if you're raiding, it's hard to see when you're in first person swinging your sword, but there's like 5 other people standing around you meleeing the boss as well, and then the boss is in your face, and you're like, I can't even see anything anyway.
Well, here's the
So
thing.
you're
I'm not saying they shouldn't support third. I mean, we heard a couple weeks ago, because I think early on, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember right, we heard earlier on Elder Scrolls Online was only going to have third person view, and everybody freaked the F out and the internet went crazy. And then all of a sudden we saw a statement that said something like, oh no, it's going to support first person view. And everybody's like, oh, whew. All right, it's going to be like Skyrim. We're okay, guys. And now all of a sudden we're hearing like, oh yeah, it's going to have first person view, but it's not really going to have first person like you thought it was going to have. You're not going to be able to play the game in first person view. But I agree. I mean, playing an MMO, if you're like raiding and stuff like that with bosses, you're going to want to like pull out to third person to make the game. I don't know. I feel like the reason that it's still a little different than most other games is because you can't sort of look at this as strictly just like, hey, this is the way MMOs are built. We're going to build an MMO like this because they have such a pre-existing defined style of gameplay and built-in audience who is used to something like this. And they definitely need to extract people from that world over into this world if they're going to be a huge, big contender. They need to try and make that experience from Skyrim kind of as closely as possible, in my opinion, over into an online space just to get those people happy and staying and living in there. And I'm even talking about like the level of detail that goes into Skyrim. Like if the MMO doesn't have like that level of granular detail of like crafting and making stuff and like freedom, that's another thing. Freedom, right? Is the MMO going to have like that open world kind of freedom feel like Skyrim does? If it doesn't, are players going to be just kind of confused?
I think that one of the biggest downfalls for ESO is going to be the fact that people are going to go into it expecting Skyrim or a lot from Skyrim. I think that if this game fails, that's going to be one of the main contenders as to why it fails. A lot of MMO players, especially all the MMO players I know play Skyrim and have Skyrim. And I think that, you know, if we keep thinking, oh, well, we expect Skyrim in this MMO, you know, even half Skyrim, I think that it's actually going to end up, you know, we're going to be greatly disappointed. We're going to go in, we're going to be really disappointed with what we find. And so I think it's going to be more like a traditional MMO than some of us want to admit.
Mm-hmm. That was something I wrote in an early article when I was critiquing. I was like, if people just if they're expecting Skyrim Online, just go play something else on it. Just ignore it and move on to something else. Because it's not going to be just Skyrim Online.
I want
Accept
Skyrim
it
Online.
or move
God
on.
damn it.
I want
Scorpion.
Skyrim Online.
Tough.
I really do. All right. I mean, here's something else. So one thing that single player fans of the franchise will probably be happy with is the main storyline. So the main storyline is going to be 100% solo and instanced. So you're never going to see another player. I mean, what do you think of this? I mean, even in SWTOR, King of the Story, you could bring in other players into your class story. Would you guys have liked to seen bringing players into your class story in Tesso, or do you kind of like this whole idea of having sort of that single player element inside of your MMO?
No, I don't like single player in my MMO.
I'd like to have the option, like I said, in SWTOR and Guild Wars 2. But as long as it can be completed solo, great. But at least let us have the chance of playing with our partners occasionally.
I mean, the other thing that's really that makes sense here of why they're probably doing it is like I'm going to assume that with SWTOR, what you had 8 stories to kind of go through, and with Tesso, I'm assuming that there's going to be 1. So maybe kind of makes sense that they want each person to be the hero within that story, and kind of be the main hero within that world. So
what's going to happen when we get to something like that one Norna instance you couldn't get through? Can't call me in to help.
Oh, you're talking about Guild Wars 2. Yeah.
Exactly.
Still a bit odd in an MMO though. Like I got to say, the open world kind of style of an MMO is a little bit weird. I think it's going to put some people off. Maybe this is how they're trying to like offset and get people who are kind of used to the Skyrim single player game incorporated into it. I don't know. But it definitely looks like the open world is going to be the meat of the game. So they're talking about also about NPCs reacting to your achievements and basically what you've done in the game. Like if you go to protect a town or something like that, you might really come back to the town, or people are going to like cheer you and sort of remember that kind of. I guess it's like NPC phasing. Yeah, pretty much. What do you think about this? Have you guys heard about the Emperor thing? The Emperor, the PvP Emperor. They've not exactly figured out how this is going to be decided yet, but the top PvP players will have a shot at becoming the Emperor, which we don't really have many details on. I mean, it sounds interesting. I mean, with a title like Emperor, I guess it's got to be one person, and you must have some kind of effect on your server to some extent. I don't know. What do you think? It's going to be like a political system? No, like I think it's gonna be like a political system, like Terra or something like that. Like you can do something with taxes or like affect other players. I mean, it sounds. Or is it just gonna be? You think it's just be a title?
You better get a castle, and you can store all your stolen goods in it.
And what kind of benefit
the next guy comes along and dethrones you and gets all your stolen goods. So.
No, I'll steal them back from him. Then he can be emperor. I'll steal my goods back though.
I mean, what kind of perks do you guys think that you could see with something like this? Do you think Tesso would go that far and put some sort of like political system in as for like Terra style, like, kind of like setting up like different taxes and things like that affecting players? Because the flip side to that is, man, PvE players could be really pissed off if some like PvP D-bag is like, taxing the crap out of people and like they don't want to have anything to do with PvP.
That's what PvE servers are for.
No, but the PvP is going to be on all the servers. It's going to be in the central area of Cyrodiil. It's going to be there, and everyone. I could see something. I'm sort of thinking like in Guild Wars 2, when your server is doing well in World versus World, you get bonuses to certain things like crafting crits or something like that. So maybe if there are the 3 factions in Elder Scrolls, maybe if someone from your faction is the Emperor, he can make it so that now everyone gets 10% more experience from my faction. Or 5% more gold drops or something, or maybe you can choose 5% experience, 10% crafting, or 10% whatever. So maybe you can mess around like that a little bit.
Give you buffs.
Someone just raised a point in chat, like there's going to be 3 factions and 1 emperor, or it'd be more interesting if there were 3 emperors for one for each faction instead, because you could create imagine all the crap talk that would go on. It would be amazing. The competition would be just absolutely amazing.
That's the competition for in the first place. You want to kill the guy from the other faction.
I want to kill the emperor from the other faction.
I was going to say Emperor versus Emperor. There should be like an arena and all 3 emperors have to go in and fight, and they make a big sort of to-do about it, like a tournament almost kind of thing.
That'd be
Can't
awesome.
wait for more Elder Scrolls Online info. We need more info. Stop teasing us, Matt.
Well, the beta's someday.
Someday. All right, let's talk a little bit about a game that launched this week that I don't know if many people even knew was going to launch. It was kind of a surprise to me and us. It just kind of like flew under the radar. SOE, publishing the game, didn't actually develop the game, but they launched a game this week, a free-to-play MMORPG called Wizardry Online. I think some of us got to check it out. I've been playing it a bit. So Wizardry Online basically is, they're positioning themselves as a very hardcore MMO, so it's got some kind of interesting mechanics built into it. Basically everything you may have learned the past 10 years about your MMO gameplay, as far as like, you know, all the, well, right, because the past 10 years have been like, we don't want players competing for things. Like everybody has a good time. And, you know, we've gotten rid of like ninja looting, you know. They've like flipped it on their head and they're doing the complete opposite. It's like we're going to punish you around every corner we possibly can. We're going to like, you know, there's full open which I think is actually a brilliant stance. Like I think is obviously going to be a niche game, a niche MMO. I think this is going to be a very polarizing MMO. You're either going to love this, you're going to hate this, but they're doing so many things to penalize you and make this hard. So permadeath is one of the things in there. Really interesting system on permadeath. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but basically what happens when you die, you go up to like a res kind of fountain thing, and a box pops up and it says like your percentage of reviving is X. And it could be like, hey, you have a 50% chance to revive. And you can actually add golden items into the boxes to raise your percentage up. So you have to pay to possibly res. And if you fail, I think 3 times on the revive, that character's gone permanently. It's permadeath, gone. Your character's gone. Poof. Bye.
Well, you know, and it's funny because they actually do a quest where they kill you.
Yes.
And it's like, dang it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they're teaching. You know what? Here's what. So I put in, I'd say maybe 2 or 3 hours with it. We're gonna put in a little bit more. I think what they're going after here is they saw the popularity of Dark Souls and Demon Souls, and they went, wow, there is a market for this type of gameplay, punishing, hard gameplay in a single player game. Let's make this into an MMORPG where it's just like insane. Dude, I got killed by a level 1 beetle and it was tough. Like, I mean, the game is hard. Like, you die a lot. If you guys check it out, it's free. Don't expect any polish though, that's for sure, because it is like,
I didn't die except for that one quest.
I mean, I did the tutorial quest, and then I went to the first dungeon. There's like the first dungeon. You go to the Adventurers Guild, you get your certificate. You go to the sewers. I went to the sewer. Did you go into the sewers yet?
Yeah.
Did you have a group or did you solo?
I soloed.
And you didn't die? You finished that whole dungeon?
Gary's like,
the sewers? You finished the entire sewer dungeon solo.
I'm pretty sure I did.
I don't think you.
From what I remember.
I don't think we're talking about the same thing. I really don't.
oh.
I don't see how.
You
Carol will
doubt
back me up because I don't see.
Doubt me.
I don't know. I'm doubting you. I'll watch chat. I don't know, because that's the one thing I'm a little bit off here, because I don't know, because you do the tutorial dungeon and then you go to the first dungeon and they look almost identical, and I'm hoping there's some variety to these dungeons. I don't know if you're looking
just
for
go through all of that for the rest of eternity. That's how hardcore it is.
If you're looking for a punishing game, here's the question is, okay, if you finish the last dungeon, do you have this sense of accomplishment? Because that's where I think that this game is going to completely teeter on. If you have that feeling of accomplishment that Dark Souls and Demon Souls had, that when you actually finished a level, you were like high-fiving your bros and throwing your thing down, like you just like did like a, you know, a 25K marathon and you won. You're so happy that you finished the level. If they can nail that, I think there's a huge market for this game.
I don't know. They got to get rid of those. I don't know if they've changed it since I played it, but oh my gosh, whenever the quest would pop up and you had to wait for them to actually like say each individual thing, you couldn't like spacebar through it or anything. That is what made me mad, because I get so impatient waiting for that. That was my biggest beef, to be honest with you.
The text? A lot of text.
Not a text. You get it all the time. And you have to be patient. You have to wait for it to stop. You know, you have to wait for them to stop talking.
Yeah. You can click through it, I think, now. Since it's launched. I think you can click to speed it up. I I don't know. I think that there's a market for this game. I don't know if they're gonna. I don't know yet if they've gotten it right. It's a free to play game. I would go check it out. Wizardry Online. If you're a fan of Demon Souls and Dark Souls, that style of gameplay where you really want to be punished and see, you may like it. You just better forget like all the little like just polish. Throw that out the window. The menus look like they're from like a Bard's Tale or something. Like it's just like, and there's like 9,000 menus of just like there's no sort of streamlining of MMO technology and systems. It's like old school dungeon crawling.
It's old school in every way.
Which
looks like the interface was made 20 years ago too, right?
Yes, and I almost think that like here's the thing. I think that their marketing department should look at this and go, they're marketing it as like instead of using free to play, they're saying free to die. Like they're saying like the most hardcore MMO. So they're marketing how hard the game is. I think they also need to market how like old school the game is. Almost like Legends of Grimrock, right? Like they went after and said like, hey, old school RPG like dungeon crawler. And people were like totally cool with like janky menus and point and click kind of like stuff and drag and drop items. And it was like old school, but that's kind of why you liked the game. I think they need to do the same thing with this game. It's just like be like, there's nothing new about this game. But here's the thing. We talk about this on the show all the time. Jason, have you ever tried it yet? Have you?
No, I haven't. All I have is a couple of people responding to my talk about it on Twitter today saying I just can't connect. That's the hardest part for me.
Yeah, that's the hardest boss of the game. The connect boss right now is tough. He's tough.
Mm-hmm. So it's like Daisy in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, they've got some server technical issues. If you guys try it, here's a tip. If you click start, it says connect at the bottom and it just sits there for a long time and you think it's crashed. It really hasn't. There's just no queue number like you're in queue. Just let it sit there. And I've literally let mine sit there for like 45 minutes, almost an hour before I got in, but you actually will get in. I don't know, but we always talk about on this show, we're always looking for different types of MMOs that kind of flip things on their head, go with, different styles of gameplay. And I think they're going that route. I mean, there's nothing mind-blowingly new in here, but like they're taking stuff from like Ultima Online and permadeath and they're really going a different path than we've been used to. Yet I find it hilarious that a lot of gamers are just like, no, I don't want that. I don't even want to try that. That sounds crazy.
I don't think they're taking a lot of the mechanics that we want, though, to make it more hardcore. Permadeath, yes. I would welcome that. I think permadeath is kind of hardcore. It makes you have to be really careful and not just go out and be careless and be like, oh, I'm going to kill everything. Oh, I died. Oops. I'm just going to wait for my buddy to res me now. It's like,
full
no.
PvP, you can become a criminal. You can go to jail. You kill too many people, the guards in the towns just attack you on sight. The mob respawn rates are ridiculous. You kill a mob and you turn around and he's spawned already. Like it's just, I don't know.
See,
I'm
we need
kind of
more
applauding
realism
them
in
for.
MMOs.
What's that?
We need more realism in MMOs because see, they just poof out of nowhere. How about like they lay eggs and they hatch after you kill them, and then they come and
they attach to your face and they eat you. And
so you want more of a virtual world? This is just about punishing you. This is just about seeing if you can endure the dungeon. Like that's really what it's all about.
Pretty much.
Can you make it through?
The kind of thing, just feel like the kind of thing you play for a little while until you see how you like it, and then after, I think you can only handle being punched in the balls too for so long before you're just going to move on to something else.
That's the way, but that's the way. Isn't that?
That quest text is like getting punched in the balls over and over. It really is.
So it feels. But isn't that the way a lot of players? That's the way a lot of players felt about Demon Souls and Dark Souls, though. Like,
but the thing is, you play Demon Souls and Dark Souls for what a month or two while you're playing it on your console or whatever, and then you move on to a different game. Yeah, but an MMO you expect to be in for months, years, whatever. So
I don't know if they can tap into that feeling of that the end response of when you accomplish something like Dark Souls has done. I think it could live in an online MMO setting. I think there's enough gamers out there who would like that feeling and just that level of accomplishment and that much just of a punishing challenge. It's challenging. The game's challenging at level 1. And they have no bones about it. Like I'm saying, you get into that first dungeon, the very first dungeon crawl, and they pretty much are just like, hey, you better get a group. I couldn't solo it. I needed a group. I had to put a group together. So it's like from just the start, they're beating the shit out of you, like by a beetle.
Hillary can solo.
Hillary can solo. All right, we guys haven't checked it out. Wizardry Online, go check it out. I obviously suck. All right, so next up, we're going to talk about Neverwinter. Coming out from Perfect World. We've got some beta and some interesting founders packs information. We've got dates for the beta. So keep in mind, this is going to be another free-to-play MMO coming out very soon. So first up, players can throw down $20 and get some in-game perks, including some items and character slots that are valued at $50. So it seems like a pretty good value for your money if you know you're going to play the game. Pretty good deal. Starts to get a little bit more controversial down the line there. So next, the Founders option is going to cost you $60. And it's got perks valued at $150. And that's going to actually get you entry into 3 beta weekends in March and February. So the other option does not give you beta access. It's going to give you a 3-day head start to open beta and a ton of items plus mounts, pets, titles, all that kind of stuff. What do you guys think in general? Let me go with the last one really quick. So in the last, if you're really looking to play Neverwinter and you're a super hardcore fan, they've got the final Founders Pack, which is going to set you back $200. $200 for this. Let me see if I got this grid here. What do you guys think about these kind of, free-to-play games kind of coming up with these pricing structures, Founders Packs, all this kind of stuff early on before the game launches? Are you guys a fan of these?
I want that mount.
So you want that mount. Which one? The $200 mount?
The 60.
The 61.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
No, but that's crap. You can't get into all the betas if you spend $60 on the game. What crap?
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
no,
yeah.
You do it for 60. You do it for
VIP.
20. For 20, you
Oh,
don't.
for 20. Okay, 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for $20, you're going
say.
to get a couple in-game perks. $60, you're going to get some more perks, and you're going to get beta access, and then $200. Now, the one here that people are kind of talking mostly about here is on the $200 one. If you look at that first icon there in the top left there, that's actually that's basically it's got some weird name, but it's actually an exclusive playable race that other people won't. Yeah, we won't have access to, which is basically a dark elf.
Yeah, see that's the thing is the drow. I mean I almost think that drow in Forgotten Realms are what started the whole emo dark elf trend in fantasy and made them so super cool. So this is like the original part of it. So all the really hardcore twinks are going to be just drooling over, I want to be Drist, I want to be just like him. Yeah, that's how they're going to get their money.
How do you feel about these though? Because I know there's people on both sides of the fence here with these these free to play games having packs out with charging different pricing structures for stuff. I, for one, don't have any problem with it. Like, it's still going to launch free to play. And if you don't want to buy any of these, you're still going to be able to download the game when it comes out and play like when it comes out. So I don't know. I don't have a problem. Even some people are kind of rolling their eyes at the $200 pack being like, wow, that is so much money. How could you guys charge $200 for something like this? It's going to be free. And it's like, nobody's forcing you to pull out your credit card.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the game isn't unplayable in the free version, you need $20, $60, or $200 stuff to be competent or to get XP at a decent rate. Then I don't think there's a problem with them. It's kind of PlanetSide 2 did the same thing. They're free to play, but they had that $40 Alpha Squad package. But even without that, I think it would have been okay. I mean, we played that in beta. We played it basically without any sort of Founders package, and we thought it was fine. Experience again is a little less, but experience doesn't matter as much in that as it might in a real MMO. So as long as you can still play it and have a decent time with it without the extra stuff, why not? I
mean, besides that playable race, it sounds like you're pretty much going to get the entire game for what we know so far for free to play. Hillary, would you ever spend $200 on a Founders Pack for a free to play game?
I've spent tons of money on games for free to play. Yeah. Oh yeah. Let me tell you how much I've spent on League. Let me tell you. No, I'm not going to tell you. It's embarrassingly bad, embarrassingly high. But yeah, I would spend $200 if there's stuff in there that I really want, and I'm like, man, I gotta have this. I will spend it. I played WoW and I wanted to get a mount, a recruit your friend mount. So I paid for 3 expansions so that way one of my characters would get the mount. That's how bad I am.
But the question is, did you pay $200 right away when the first instant you set foot in League, or did you play it for a while and then say, okay, now I want to spend a bunch of money?
Yeah, I guess I did. I did play it a little while, and that's same with WoW. That's the issue. I think is what people are kind of a little stickler about because they haven't even had a chance to. A lot of people haven't even had a chance to play the game.
Like, no, but I mean, I think there's a good amount of people out there who just know that they want to play this game and live in the Neverwinter D&D universe. I mean, like I said, nobody's really forcing anybody to buy these things. I just know that when they were launched this, even amongst our people, like it was just a lot of opposing feelings on like the pricing structure and feeling that, you know, it just seemed like a very high dollar amount for some people. But at the same time, it's like, well, just hang out. Like, you know what I think? You know what I think miffs up? You know what I think might bother people a little bit? I think where they get a little bit miffed is when they can't get access to the betas. And that's really what it is. So the $20, I can't plunk down $20 and pre-order kind of that and get access to beta. I got to spend $60 to guarantee my spot into the beta. Again, it's beta. Like, I mean,
but well, it's the way to find out if you think you're going to like it or not. If you're kind of on the fence, you might be like, yeah, let me at least try it out, see if I like the mechanics or whatever. I can kind of see wanting to do that before you plunk down a huge bunch of cash.
Just wait till it comes out, or I'm sure there's probably going to be multiple ways to get into beta.
I think this is a pre-launch package only.
No, yeah, right, for those items, obviously, yeah. But I'm saying, well, if you don't want to spend the money, I'm sure there's going to be other ways to possibly get in the beta with sites giving away beta keys and things like that. That usually is kind of the norm.
It's estimated its value is $550. What are they putting in there? Are they going to send you a giant dragon statue as well? If they did, then yeah,
I think they would put that in there. Yeah, if you can see that up there, it actually says. So it's that exclusive elf, dark elf. There's another cooler mount. There's a companion, a mount, beta weekend, and VIP access, and the pack contains 14 more items. I don't have the items in front of me, but you can click the button, and I think it tells you everything that's in there. So.
The drow costs $500 alone, and the rest of the stuff is $50.
Yeah. So. It's not the first time we've seen a game do this. It's not the first time that we've had expensive, like, basically collector's editions. The really expensive collector's editions that were only on sale before the game launched. And I think, Guild Wars had it, Star Wars had it, and we've seen other games have it. And how many people bought those? They were sold out.
Well, the difference there for some people, I think, and why they're sort of looking at this is that most of those were physical collector's editions. You spent the $150, you got a box, you got a figurine, you got all kinds of crap in it. But it's like these are digital collector's editions with price tags, and they're somewhat high. But again, I don't know. I have no problem with this stuff. I'm waiting for companies to put out $1,000 digital package. Somebody will buy it. Hey, why not? It's not going to hurt me. I'm not pulling out said game, not even talking about Neverwinter. Like, I don't want to buy it. I'm not pulling out my card. Hey, no harm, no loss.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Age of Wushu. Fans, you may have noticed if you were watching this, we've been covering this a little bit. The martial arts game. It was supposed to come out. And guess what? It's not out. Just a week before launch, Age of Wushu was pushed back from February 1st to a much more vague spring of 2013. So we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for some martial arts action from Age of Wushu. Also this week, Defiance has got a launch date officially of April 2nd. I know a bunch of people have been hanging out in the Defiance beta. I've been hearing a lot of good things actually about Defiance. People are having a lot of fun. So April 2nd, mark your dates. That one is going to be officially launched. And that's pretty much it this week. So let's do some viewer questions and get the heck out of here. First up this week from Jonathan Reyna. Jonathan says, actually, I should preface this, not questions. We actually asked people what they thought of Wizardry. So with Wizardry launching, kind of flew under the radar and not many people knew about it. We figured we'd poke it out there and say, hey, what do you guys think? So first up, Jonathan Reyna said, downloaded the game and uninstalled after the first dungeon. I mean, it's just so bad how people can actually enjoy the combat. I felt like the game was developed in 1990 rather than 2013. And
he's a cat.
But
what do cats know about gaming?
Here's my counter to that. Doesn't Legends of Grimrock feel like a game that was developed like in the 90s? Like, isn't that the whole allure of it? Like, that's like when I bought it and started playing it, I knew that that's what I was in store for. And I think that's the difference here. I agree that it does feel like a game that was developed years ago.
There's a difference between, and again, having not played the game, I don't know exactly what it's like, but there's a difference between nostalgia and feeling like something from the 90s as opposed to something that has like an interface or is clunky like the 90s. It's like you buy a classic car that looks like a car from the 1950s. It could look great and that's awesome, but you're still going to want it to have the transmission and a CD player and whatever other stuff. You don't want it to actually be feeling like a car from the 50s for the most part. Some people do, I know, but for the most part, you want it to act like a modern car under the hood.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm gonna have to play more. I'm gonna come back on this because I don't see anything majorly missing. It's a very different game. I agree. It's a very different game. Here's the only thing that would make me not at least recommend people at least try it, if it even remotely intrigues you because of the hardcoreness of it, is that I haven't run into any bugs. So if it was really buggy, I'd be on here being like, oh my God, this game is completely frustrating and buggy and annoying. And besides the Connect screen, I don't know. I think there's going to be a subset of people who like this game. It does feel like it was developed a long time ago, though. I agree.
Except for that one beetle. That's the bug you just can't handle.
I'm an old fart. I like these old games. I think if
that,
Good.
Well, I think that, like you said, there will be a group of people that like it, but at the same time, I think a lot of people won't like it because it does take a few elements that are hardcore and awesome, but a lot of the elements in the game, they're not really things that are desired by even like a large niche group. Like it's just, I don't know. It wasn't appealing to me. And I do like challenging games. I would have thought that about games like Demon Souls and Dark Souls. Like I said, I keep going back to that because I feel like that's what they're kind of trying to emulate here in online space. And I don't know if they have, but I think like that's what I would have thought about that game. You know, things like an example of that, you know, you get all the way through the level on Dark Souls, you get to an end boss or something, you die. Most other games would like let you start right there and kind of like respawn back in at the boss and just fight the boss. No, they start you back at the beginning. Wizardry does something. They do that anymore. Well, Wizardry does something kind of similar, right? We're used to MMOs where you die at a point, you res at a graveyard, you run back to your body. Let's say you res right there, and you're resing at the point of where you died, and you can move on from there. They actually have it the opposite way. You die somewhere, you become a ghost there. You have to run back and find a place that you can res at, and when you res there, not where your body was dead, which puts you back somewhere before you have to get back through the kind of point of entry of like we going through the dungeon. So it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, that's definitely for a very small group of people. I think a lot of people who progress in, because a lot of MMOs are about progressing as a character, and it's not about beating the game. It's about progressing and becoming stronger, and then they come out with new content, and you progress through that with a group of people, and you're bound to die, even in regular MMOs. I mean, I die all the time in regular MMOs during, like, you know, hard raids and stuff, but every MMO has a form of punishment, but that one, it's sort of like, shame on you, you died 3 times, now your character's gone, bam, yep. What? Start over. That takes a very special kind of person to want their character to actually be deleted.
I agree. But for an MMO company, when everybody is zigging, they're zagging. They went over here, which I think is smart because maybe it'll pick up 100,000, 200,000 people. Like, I don't see this isn't some WoW killer, right? This isn't some huge game that's going to be like astronomically, you know, overwhelm the industry.
Can you imagine playing a healer and then everybody dies and half the people get their character deleted and people start giving death threats because it's your fault because you were the healer? I'm not playing a healer in that game ever.
So this next one up from James Bragg. So he says he gives you a couple tips for players out there. He says tip 1. It takes a while to connect to being the initial opening of the game. I already talked about that. So there's a tip for you. He gives tip 2. He says it's a JRPG that is an MMO. The brutality of the mechanics of the game make it hard to be a solo player. You have to be in a group with the respawn rate and limited resources of mana on some characters, which I didn't even talk about that. Did I mention that your hit points don't regenerate? They don't regen. Like, you have to pot or make a camp. Anyway. It says, if you have the attention span of a newt, you won't find the game fun. It's like playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons on a computer. I enjoyed it for what it is, a brutally hard game.
I was just about to say that too when you brought up the hit points again. I was going to say it's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons Online, which does that. You don't regenerate your stuff, and they do have a permadeath option in DDO. You can make your character to be a permadeath character. So, and some small subset of people who play DDO like that, and they like to play that way. But if that was all you could do in DDO, I don't think it'd be even a tenth as successful as it is now. But it's an option side there, and some people really like it. But it's a smaller number of people.
Oh, I think it's going to be a small number of people. Like I said, I agree. I think it's going to be a small number of people, but I'm actually applauding them for actually going a different route, not making the same game over and over and over. I mean, because you imagine if they just did this and like, oh, it's Wizardry Online, and we're going to try and be like World of Warcraft. We would really not even be talking about the game right now. We're actually talking about it because it's actually doing something different. So I gotta kind of like that. Last up from Devin Barella says, I was turned on by the risk of this game. Hard monsters to fight, deadly environmental traps, permadeath, and player looting. But everything about it feels way too dated. Poor graphics, clunky, unresponsive controls, and uninteresting story, or maybe just poor storytelling mechanics. So again, it may be the fact that you know, a lot of people seem to really like. What's that? It does lack polish. Yeah, throw polish out the window. It doesn't have polish. Yeah, it could use a coat of polyurethane to kind of spruce it up, but it definitely doesn't.
Polish.
It does.
These more guys named Stanislav.
Well, Jason, I don't know if you're going to join us, but we're going to be playing it today. Wizardry Online. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Download it.
I'll join you just to get you all killed.
There you go. See? You can see. Maybe that's why I like it, because I can just troll.
It's gonna be perfect for griefing. I might play it now. I might play it now.
It is, but you can. Right. There's already groups of players just getting through and just steamrolling and just killing everybody and just killing everybody to the point that people are annoyed. All right, Jason Winter. Follow him on the Twitter at WinterInformal. Of course, go over to GameBreaker.tv all day, every day, every week. Check out all his amazing work right over here on GameBreaker.tv and right here on TWIMMO every week as well.
No hands.
No hands. Hillary Nicole, aka Pocket. Follow her on Twitter at Pocket Says. Go over to her YouTube page at
Pocket Productions.
Pocket Productions. Will not be playing Wizardry Online. Follow me on Twitter, Gary Gannon. She will, because now there's griefing involved. She's all happy. She's like, oh my god, I can grief you, Gannon. All right, let's do it. Follow me at Gary Gannon. Follow GameBreaker TV, GameBreaker TV, and come over to the live show for This Week in MMO. We do the show live every single Friday at 3 PST, so show up for the live show. Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching, as always, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.